The world of the Duggar family, for all its carefully curated images of wholesome charm and buttoned-up propriety, is not built on a foundation of glass, but of the most fragile and volatile substance known to man: gossip. It's a currency that trades in whispers, a digital wildfire that can ignite from a single unguarded moment. In this universe, a glance held too long, a shadow on a window at an odd hour, or a name whispered in the wrong circles is enough to send seismic tremors through the tightly knit clan. Tonight, we are not just looking at a rumor. We are looking at a fissure, a crack in the very facade that could change the trajectory of the youngest Duggar's life forever. Welcome, everyone, to an in-depth exploration of a story that has sent shockwaves through the Tontatown, Arkansas community and beyond. I'm your host, and tonight we are peeling back the layers of a narrative that is as intriguing as it is explosive. We are diving deep into the heart of a family renowned for its strict convictions and unwavering control, only to find a secret so potent it threatens to unravel the very fabric of their public image. This is not a story about speculation. It is a story about the collision of absolute authority and the undeniable pull of the human heart. We are talking about Josie Duggar, the family's youngest and most protected daughter, and the secret relationship that has not only been discovered but has ignited a firestorm of familial anger, betrayal, and an ultimatum that could tear them apart. Our investigation begins not in Arkansas but in the quiet, unassuming town of Siloam Springs, a location just a stone's throw from the Duggar compound. For months, sources close to the family have whispered about a significant change in Josie's behavior. There was a lightness in her step, a new, almost rebellious sparkle in her eyes that seemed out of place in the strictly regimented environment of the Duggar home. She was spending more time at the local library, a legitimate enough alibi, but our investigation reveals that her frequent visits coincided with the arrival of a new volunteer, a young man named Elias. He wasn't a part of their church, a fact that would have been the first red flag for the Duggar patriarch. Elias was an outsider, an artist, a musician with a bohemian streak that stood in stark contrast to the Duggars' traditionalist world. According to the library staff, they were often seen in the back corner, heads bent together over old books of poetry, their conversations lasting hours. It was a romance born of quiet corners, shared whispers, and a profound intellectual connection that Josie, who has always been portrayed as the delicate and quiet one, clearly craved. This was her secret garden, a place of solace far away from the ever-watchful eyes of her siblings and the rule of her parents. Tension had been building for months, a low hum of anxiety that permeated the Duggar household. The family, known for their unshakable unity, was being tested by forces they couldn't control. It all came to a head on a sweltering Thursday evening. The family had gathered for their usual post-dinner debrief, a time for Jim Bob to discuss the day's events and the upcoming family schedule. The atmosphere was tense. It is our understanding that a family friend, a loyal and longtime member of their church circle, had spotted Josie and Elias together at a local coffee shop, a place far from the library and decidedly more public. The friend, believing they were doing the right thing by protecting the family's reputation, made a phone call to Michelle that would change everything. Call was brief, but the message was devastating. Michelle's face, as witnesses described, went pale. The phone call was followed by a terse, whispered conversation with Jim Bob that left the rest of the family in a state of anxious silence. It was the calm before the storm. What followed was an explosion of emotion that shook the very foundations of the Duggar home. The usually calm and collected Jim Bob, the patriarch who commands respect through sheer presence and unwavering conviction, was reportedly livid. His voice, normally a measured baritone, became a thunderous roar that echoed through the halls. This was more than just a broken rule. It was a perceived act of rebellion, a public embarrassment, and a direct challenge to his authority. He saw it as the ultimate betrayal of trust, not just from Josie, but from a world that he has fought to keep at arm's length. He is a man who has built a fortress around his family, and in his eyes, Josie had thrown open the gates for an invader. The conversation was not a discussion. It was a confrontation, a battle of wills between a father whose word is law and a daughter who, for the first time in her life, found the courage to fight back for something she believed in. The family group chat, a digital water cooler of Duggar life, was buzzing with frantic messages and accusations as siblings took sides, some defending Josie's right to happiness, others, deeply loyal to their father's vision, condemning her actions. Core of the conflict, we have learned, is not just the existence of a boyfriend but the nature of the relationship itself. Elias is not from their world. He is a young man who holds progressive views, who believes in personal freedom, and who does not subscribe to the strict courtship model the Duggars champion. He represents everything Jim Bob has spent a lifetime trying to shield his children from. For the Duggar patriarch, it's a slippery slope. If Josie is allowed to date this worldly individual, what's to stop the next child? What's to stop the family's carefully constructed moral empire from crumbling? The anger is rooted in fear, a primal fear of losing control, of the unknown, of the outside world infiltrating the safe haven he has so meticulously built. This fear has now been weaponized, turning a father's protective instinct into a punitive measure. We've managed to speak with a source close to the family, someone who was present in the immediate aftermath of the discovery. They painted a picture of a house in turmoil. The image of the perfect, smiling family we see on television is but a ghost. In its place is the reality of a household torn apart by a secret. Josie, according to this source, is devastated but resolute. She is not backing down. For the first time, she is confronting the notion that her family's love might be conditional, contingent upon her absolute obedience. The anger from Jim Bob is not a passing storm, it's a lingering hurricane. He has reportedly laid down an ultimatum: end the relationship or face the consequences, which could include a freeze on her access to the family's social media accounts, the closure of her personal bank accounts, and even being moved out of the family home to a stricter, more controlled environment. This ultimatum is a test of loyalty, and the decision Josie makes will define her future. The ripple effects are being felt far beyond the walls of the Tontatown home. The Duggar children are divided. The older siblings, those who have perhaps experienced their own mild rebellions and have families of their own, are more sympathetic. They see a young woman fighting for her autonomy. But the younger ones, especially those who still look up to their father as an infallible leader, are echoing his anger and disappointment, creating a deep rift in the sibling dynamic. The family unit, which has always been presented as a unified force, is showing visible cracks. This is not a disagreement over what to have for dinner. This is a philosophical war over the definition of happiness, freedom, and the future of the Duggar legacy. But let's take a step back and look at who Josie is. Often overlooked as the youngest of the 19, Josie has grown up in the shadow of her older siblings' controversies, marriages, and a constant barrage of public scrutiny. She has been protected, coddled, and kept from the world in a way that has almost stifled her own identity. This secret relationship is not just an act of defiance, it is a declaration of selfhood. It's her attempt to step out of the shadows of her famous family and be seen for who she is, not just as a Duggar. Her rebellion is perhaps the most significant because she has always been the quiet one, the one no one expected to push back. This makes her fight all the more compelling and her father's reaction all the more severe. The narrative of the perfect, God-fearing family has always been a tightly controlled narrative, meticulously curated by a team of publicists and family advisors. Jim Bob and Michelle have always projected an image of unity and strict adherence to their faith. This story, however, exposes the cost of that image. It reveals the immense pressure placed on the children to live up to a standard that is often impossible. It's a story of what happens when a child's heart dares to dream outside the lines that have been so rigidly drawn for her. This is not just about a secret boyfriend, it is about the secret price of a public life, and it is being paid by a young woman who only wanted to be loved on her own terms. As we move forward, the question on everyone's mind is, what happens to Josie? Does she submit to her father's will, sacrificing her own happiness for the sake of the family's public reputation? Or does she stand her ground, risking everything she has known to embrace a future that looks very different from the one that was planned for her? We're witnessing a modern-day tragedy playing out, a conflict between tradition and the individual. This is the point where the story pivots from a simple gossip item to a profound human drama, and we are here to document it. The fallout from this incident is not just personal, it has financial and social implications for the family. The Duggar brand is built on wholesomeness, submission, and a certain kind of innocence. A public rebellion from their youngest daughter could be a potential PR disaster. The family has already weathered several scandals, but this one is different. This is not about an external accuser, this is about an internal mutiny. It raises questions about the family's control, their parenting, and the true cost of their authoritarian lifestyle. Challenges the very core of the narrative they have sold to the public for years. This is the moment the fairy tale begins to show its thorns. We reached out to representatives of the Duggar family for a comment on this developing situation. While we haven't received an official statement, the silence from their camp is deafening. Signals a family in crisis, scrambling to contain a story that is rapidly slipping out of their control. The lack of an immediate denial, which is the family's standard operating procedure, suggests that the claims of a fiery family meeting and the existence of Elias are accurate. The digital silence is often the loudest confirmation of a family's distress. This is not a blip on their radar, it is a crisis management situation of the highest order. Think about the implications of the ultimatum. Shows the dark side of a patriarchal system where a father's word is absolute. It's a system that has been romanticized on television for years, but in this moment of crisis, it appears less like a loving family structure and more like a dictatorship. This is the story of a young woman faced with an impossible choice, to be loyal to her family or to be loyal to herself. She has been taught her entire life that these two things are one and the same, but now she has discovered they are not. The discovery is shattering her world. The source who spoke with us was deeply concerned for Josie's mental and emotional well-being. They described a young woman who is isolated and afraid, caught in the crossfire of her parents' ambitions and her siblings' judgments. The family's reaction was described not as a caring intervention, but as a brutal display of power. This was not about saving her from a bad decision, it was about punishing her for making a decision they didn't approve of. This is a conflict between love and fear is currently winning. So, where does this leave us? We are left with the image of Josie Duggar standing at a crossroads. On one side lies the familiar, albeit suffocating, comfort of her family and the life she has always known. On the other is a path filled with uncertainty but also the promise of freedom and love. The anger from the Duggar family is a testament to their awareness that this is a pivotal moment. They know that if Josie wins this fight, she sets a precedent for every other child to follow. Threatens their entire way of life. They are fighting not just to control her but to protect their legacy. This is a story about the secrets we keep and the masks we wear. The Duggar family has mastered the art of the mask, presenting a flawless facade to the world. But the mask is slipping. Josie's secret relationship has become the pressure point that has cracked it wide open, revealing the fear, the anger, and the fragility that lies beneath. It's a story that transcends celebrity gossip and touches on universal themes of family, freedom, and the difficult journey of discovering who you are. As we go forward, we will continue to follow this story with the diligence it deserves. We are waiting to see if Josie will emerge from this conflict as a symbol of defiance or as another casualty of the Duggar dynasty. The world is watching, Josie. And we're standing by to see what you choose. The eyes of the world are upon the Duggar household, and the next move will be the most revealing yet. The anger has been unleashed, the ultimatum has been delivered, and the fate of one young woman's future hangs in the balance. We'll be right here, documenting every step of this deeply human and profoundly compelling story. The storm that erupted within the Duggar household that Thursday evening was not merely a fleeting squall. It was a catastrophic weather event that has since redefined the family's internal landscape. In the days following the explosive confrontation, the compound in Tontitown has transformed into a veritable fortress of silence and suspicion. The cheerful, bustling home that once echoed with the sounds of children playing and family members bustling about has been replaced by an eerie, heavy quiet, a silence that speaks volumes about the fractures that now run deep beneath the surface. Our investigation has uncovered new layers to this unfolding drama, revealing that the initial confrontation was only the beginning of what promises to be a protracted and painful battle for control, identity, and ultimately, the very soul of one young woman. Let us now venture deeper into this labyrinth of family loyalty and personal desire. The source who first alerted us to the family's internal turmoil has returned with additional, startling revelations about the atmosphere inside the Duggar home in the aftermath of the confrontation. According to this insider, Jim Bob's anger has not abated. If anything, it has intensified, hardening into a cold, calculated resolve. Patriarch, known for his measured public demeanor, has reportedly retreated into a state of icy silence punctuated by sudden, explosive outbursts. He moves through the house like a thundercloud, his presence suffocating the very air around him. The younger children, who were always accustomed to a warm and loving father, now tiptoe around him, terrified of saying or doing the wrong thing. The family's carefully nurtured environment of safety and security has been shattered, replaced by an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. Michelle Duggar, the matriarch who has always been portrayed as the gentle, nurturing counterpart to her husband's authority, finds herself in an impossible position. Sources indicate that she is deeply torn between her loyalty to her husband and her maternal instinct to protect her youngest daughter. Michelle has always been the bridge between Jim Bob's firm discipline and the children's emotional needs, but this time the chasm is too wide to span. She has been observed spending hours in her private prayer room, seeking divine guidance in a situation that has no easy answers. Her public silence is telling. A woman who has never shied away from speaking about her family's values and her children's lives has suddenly become mute, unable to articulate a response that would satisfy either her husband or her daughter. Pressure is visibly taking a toll on her. Those close to the family report that she appears exhausted, her trademark radiant smile replaced by a weary, haunted expression. But what of Josie herself? In the days since the confrontation, she has become a ghost in her own home. The young woman who once seemed so delicate and fragile has found an unexpected reserve of strength. She is not hiding in shame. Rather, she is standing her ground with a quiet, unyielding determination that has shocked even those who know her best. According to our sources, Josie has refused to end her relationship with Elias, despite the immense pressure being applied from all sides. She has reportedly told her parents that she loves them, but she cannot and will not sacrifice her happiness for their approval. This declaration, as one might imagine, was met with further outrage. Jim Bob, unaccustomed to being defied by any of his children, especially the youngest and most seemingly pliable, has escalated his response. The family's response has taken on a tactical dimension that reveals the depth of their concern. Social media, the family's primary tool for maintaining their public image, has been weaponized in this domestic conflict. The Duggar family's official accounts, which once featured Josie prominently, have been conspicuously silent about her. Recent posts have featured her older siblings and their families, carefully excluding any mention or image of Josie. This digital erasure is a deliberate strategy, a message to Josie and to the world that she is being isolated, cut off from the family's public-facing identity. It is a punishment designed to hurt her where she is most vulnerable, her sense of belonging to the Duggar brand. This calculated move demonstrates that the family is willing to sacrifice Josie's public presence to maintain the illusion of unity and control. The financial implications of Josie's defiance cannot be overstated. The Duggar family's income is heavily dependent on their public image. Their television appearances, speaking engagements, and various business ventures all rely on the perception of a harmonious, God-fearing family. A public rift threatens to undermine this carefully constructed empire. Our sources indicate that family advisors and public relations consultants have been brought in to manage the potential fallout. There are discussions about how to spin the narrative should Josie choose to go public with her side of the story. The family is reportedly terrified that Josie, in her defiance, might speak to the media, exposing the inner workings of their household and revealing the authoritarian nature of their parenting. This fear is driving much of the anger and the draconian measures being implemented. Josie's relationship with Elias has also been subjected to intense scrutiny by the family. They have reportedly hired private investigators to dig into his past, hoping to find something, anything, that could be used to discredit him in Josie's eyes. This is a common tactic in the Duggar playbook. When one of the children ventures outside the family's approved circle, they immediately launch a campaign of character assassination. But thus far, their efforts have been unsuccessful. Elias, it appears, is exactly who he appears to be, a kind, intelligent, and principled young man who genuinely cares for Josie. This lack of ammunition has only deepened the family's frustration and anger. They cannot control the narrative when there is no scandal to exploit. In the midst of all this turmoil, the older Duggar siblings have begun to emerge with their own opinions and, in some cases, their own quiet acts of rebellion. Jill and Derek Dillard, who have already experienced their own estrangement from the family, have reportedly reached out to Josie, offering her support and advice. This is a significant development, as Jill's own departure from the family's strict rules was a major scandal in its own right. Her willingness to support Josie is a clear signal that the younger generation is beginning to question the authoritarian structure they were raised in. Other siblings, however, have aligned themselves firmly with their father. Jessa and Ben Seawald, for example, have reportedly taken a hardline stance, condemning Josie's relationship as sinful and rebellious. The family is divided, with factions forming along ideological lines that mirror the broader cultural divide in America. The emotional toll on Josie is immense, yet she continues to project an image of composure. Our source describes a young woman who has matured rapidly in the span of a few weeks. She is no longer the timid child who would defer to her parents' every whim. She has become a woman with convictions of her own, ready to face the consequences of her choices. This transformation is remarkable, given the controlled environment in which she was raised. It speaks to a deep inner strength that was always present but never allowed to flourish. Josie's defiance is not born of teenage rebellion. It is born of a profound conviction that her life belongs to her, not to her family's legacy. What is perhaps most heartbreaking about this situation is the collateral damage being inflicted on the younger children in the Duggar household. They are witnessing their family torn apart by conflict, forced to choose sides in a battle they did not create. The younger Duggar children, who grew up in the shadow of their older siblings' fame and controversies, are now living through a family crisis of unprecedented proportions. They are confused and frightened, unsure of what the future holds for their once stable family structure. Jim, Bob, and Michelle, so focused on controlling Josie, may be inadvertently destroying the very foundation of trust and security they worked so hard to build for all their children. Church community that has always been the Duggar family's primary support system is also beginning to fracture. Some members of their congregation have expressed sympathy for Josie, believing that the family's response has been too harsh and judgmental. Others, however, have rallied behind Jim Bob, viewing Josie's defiance as a threat to the moral order of their community. This division within the church is particularly painful for the family, as their faith has always been the cornerstone of their identity. Church was supposed to be their sanctuary, their safe haven from the judgments of the outside world. Now, even that sanctuary is being invaded by questions and doubts. The media, sensing a story of immense public interest, has been circling the Duggar compound like sharks scenting blood. Camera crews and reporters have been spotted in the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of Josie or any family member who might offer a comment. The family's response has been to tighten their defenses further, retreating into their home and refusing to engage with the press. This siege mentality is taking its toll. The family that once courted media attention now views it as a hostile force to be avoided at all costs. The irony of this reversal is not lost on observers, who note that the Duggar family's current predicament is a direct result of their decades-long obsession with maintaining a perfect public image. Josie has reportedly been in contact with Elias, communicating through burner phones and encrypted messaging apps that the family cannot monitor. This secret communication is a lifeline for her, a reminder that there is a world beyond the compound and people who love her unconditionally. The secrecy of these communications adds another layer of intrigue to the story, highlighting the desperate measures the young couple must take to maintain their connection. It is a clandestine romance reminiscent of a Shakespearean tragedy, two lovers forced to communicate in whispers and shadows, their love forbidden by the very forces that should nurture it. The family's legal team has also become involved, preparing for the possibility that Josie, upon turning the age of majority, might choose to leave the family and potentially seek legal emancipation. This contingency planning reveals the depth of the Duggar family's concern about the long-term implications of this conflict. They are preparing for the worst-case scenario, a scenario in which Josie permanently severs ties with the family and goes public with her story. The specter of a tell-all book or interview hangs over the household like a sword of Damocles, a threat that could destroy the Duggar empire once and for all. In the midst of this chaos, there are moments of quiet reflection. Michelle Duggar has been seen visiting Josie's room late at night, sitting with her in silence, unsure of what to say. These moments of maternal connection, brief as they are, offer a glimmer of hope that reconciliation might still be possible. But the chasm between mother and daughter, father and child remains vast. Trust has been broken, and trust, once shattered, is not easily repaired. The family must find a way to navigate this crisis without losing each other entirely.